Continuing further with module number 5 titled Rectifiers and Filters. Once again, welcome to the entire class of SE Electronics and Computer Science Semester 3 for the subject Electronic Devices abbreviated ED with the subject code ACC 302. For today's particular video lecture session, we will cover unit number 5.2 and the topic would be the inductor or the L filter. Previously, we had already covered the capacitor, also called as the C filter. In the earlier video lecture, we also observed the need for filter circuits. So, before we start today's video lecture session by covering the inductor, also called as the L filter, my sincere request to all is, since we had covered the capacitor or the C filter in the previous video lecture session, the part that was also covered was the need for filter circuits. So in case if you have not covered that or if you have missed that, the YouTube video lecture link along with the QR code is given here. So starting off, as per the syllabus, as you are all aware by now, we have 4 different filters: the capacitor filter, the inductor filter, the inductor capacitor, and the capacitor inductor capacitor, also called as the pi filter. We shall be studying all these particular filter circuits by observing the circuit diagram, the principle of operation, their working, expressions for the average DC output voltage, expressions for the average DC output current along with their ripple factor gamma. So starting off with the inductor or the L filter. From the previous video lecture session, the only major drawback about capacitor or the C filters was that whenever the capacitor was charging, it would draw a very heavy current through the PN junction diode. So as you are able to see, time instant T1 is the time during which capacitor C will charge. Here it will be from point B to point C. Here it will be from point D to point D, and then so on and so forth. During each and every charging interval, it can even be the starting part, there is a very heavy peak or a surge current that flows through each PN junction diode. Reason being that whenever the capacitor charges, the time constant is extremely small, allowing the capacitors to charge quickly. The reason being that the forward bias resistance of the PN junction diodes is extremely small, typically of the order of a few ohms. That is the only particular reason why the current through the capacitor will be in the form of spikes or pulses. Now, the PN junction diodes which have to be used for these applications need to have a very high spike or a very high surge current rating. And with a very high rating, their fabrication techniques become complex. The cost and the size will also go up. So the only drawback of the capacitor filter is again the peak or the surge current that flows through the PN junction diode. Now we are all aware of the fact that capacitors prevent a sudden change in voltage across it, whereas inductors, now these are passive components that oppose the sudden change in current through it. So these particular current spikes that flow through the PN junction diodes can definitely be minimized or they can be greatly decreased with the use of inductors. So a typical inductor filter is as shown. The circuit diagram here is the same. You have a AC power input supply of 230 volts 50 hertz, which is connected to the step down transformer primary winding labeled as V in, and you have the secondary winding connected at 2 specific points for the full wave bridge type rectifier circuit. We have diodes D1, D2, D3, and D4, all of them arranged in a typical bridge configuration. The inductor filter, that is L, is connected exactly in series with the load RL. Recall the fact that the capacitor for the C filter was connected in parallel. Here the inductor L is always connected in series. IL is equal to the value IDC, which is nothing but the average DC current or simply the load current that flows through both the inductor L as well as the load RL. VL is equal to VDC is nothing but the load voltage or the output average DC voltage which is obtained across the load RL. So when you sketch the entire circuit, always make it a point to draw the 230 volts AC 50 Hz AC input power supply first, followed by its connection to the transformer primary windings and labeling this voltage as Vin. Then the secondary part of the step down transformer secondary winding is connected at two specific points of the full wave bridge type rectifier circuit at diodes D1, D2, D3 as well as D4. Starting from the topmost node, we need to draw the inductor L, and in series we need to draw the load RL. Looking at the basic property of a inductor, it is a passive device which prevents a sudden change in current through it. So if the current is given as IL of t, the voltage across it will be VL of t, and the signs are opposite. As the current enters the inductor from the left hand side, the sign is minus. As the current leaves the inductor from here, right hand side, the sign is plus. So the voltage across the inductor is given by nothing but the rate of change of current through it multiplied by the inductance. This negative sign is simply due to the phenomena of Lenz's law. This will oppose the very cause of the EMF producing it. Hence we get the minus sign. If the current is changing continuously, the voltage across it will be very, very large. But if the current is constant, the voltage across it will be zero. This explains the particular reason why inductors allow DC but they block AC. Similarly, the current can be simply computed by arranging these terms. So we get IL of t is equal to minus 1 by L integral VL of t dt. That is the current voltage equation for the inductor. The second important part is the plotting of the inductive reactance XL as a function of the frequency. We all know by this time that XL is given as j omega L, or if we take the value in a typical modulus sign, we get mod XL is equal to 2 pi FL. 2 is a constant, pi is a constant, and the frequency of the AC input supply is also a constant. If we take it as simply 50 Hertz, L is also the inductance. However, if we plot a graph of the change in the inductive reactance versus the frequency, then L being the component value remains constant and 2 pi is also a constant term. So XL becomes directly proportional to the frequency F. It means when F is 0, XL will also be 0. But as F tends to go towards infinity, XL also will tend to go towards infinity. So plotting this will give us a characteristic curve like this. This is nothing but the equation of a straight line that passes through the origin. For this particular graph, the slope is simply 2 into pi into L. Now, let us look at the filtering action which is performed by the inductor or the L filter. Here, the entire complicated part has been simply put by a black box, which is nothing but the 230 volts AC 50 Hz supply, the transformer, and the four diodes D1, D2, D3, and D4 that form a simple full wave rectifier circuit. The output is given as V out, and since we have been seeing since the past few video lecture sessions, the output is completely pulsating in nature. It has both a DC component as well as an AC component. So here we have the pulsating DC voltage applied to the inductor as well as the resistor RL. Now, if the voltage is pulsating, the current will also be pulsating. So the graph of the load current can be plotted as shown. Here you have IL as the load current as a function of time t. This is the maximum or the peak value of the current that is given as Im. This is nothing but the average or the DC load current given by the value IDC. And what we have is this graph in red. It actually shows the output load current, which is slightly pulsating in nature. This is nothing but the output or the maximum load current, which is nothing but sinusoidal in nature without the filtering process. Now, when the first half cycle comes, the output current will increase. So as the output current increases, inductors are known to prevent a sudden rate of change of current through it. So as the current increases, the inductor will store energy in its magnetic field, since the equation E is equal to half into L into I square. So as the inductor will now store the current, it will also store the energy. As from 0 to the value pi by 2, the inductor stores energy, and as the current decreases further from pi by 2 to pi, this can happen for every single half cycle. So as the current starts to decrease, because the voltage is now decreasing, since the diodes are now turning off, the current IL will also decrease. However, since inductors are known to prevent a sudden change in the current flowing through them, the load current will be now maintained constant, because the inductor, which had previously stored the energy, will now supply the energy back to the load. So the inductor will force a current which is almost constant to flow through the load RL. Before the inductor can lose all of the energy, the next half cycle comes, and it is this next half cycle which will again restore the energy back in the inductor. So similar to a typical capacitor where it would charge and discharge rapidly, the inductor will also store the energy, and it will also release the entire energy. So what we see is that the load current is almost remaining constant, because when the maximum or the peak current is now increasing, the inductor is now storing the energy. But as the current is now decreasing, the inductor is supplying the current through the load, because it is simply converting its own stored energy into electric current. So this rapid release of energy and the storage of energy is causing the load current to remain almost constant, thereby minimizing the entire ripple content. This is nothing but the peak to peak ripple current given by IR peak to peak. And as you see clearly, if the output or the load current remains almost constant, the same current will be multiplied by the load RL to give us the load voltage VL. It is by simply Ohm's law. So if the current is fairly regulated, or if the current is fairly kept constant, the load voltage will be automatically be constant itself. Looking at the operation, the inductor is connected in series with the load RL. For the first positive half cycle, current through the inductor will increase to its maximum or the peak value as given by Im. The inductor stores the energy due to this change in its magnetic field due to an increase in the output load current IDC. As the rectified output current decreases towards the end of the first positive half cycle, the inductor will now release the energy, because its fundamental property is not to allow a rapid change in the flow of current through it. Hence, this energy will be now released in the form of a current IDC supplied to the load RL, thereby keeping it almost continuous. For the next positive half cycle, the same process repeats for the storage and release of the energy in the inductor L. And finally, ripple content is minimized to a great deal due to the rapid energy storage and release action of the inductor L. This is exactly similar to the capacitor. While the capacitor stores energy in its electric field given by the formula E is equal to half into C into V square, the inductor will store the energy in its magnetic field given by E is equal to half into L into I square. The expression for the DC, or the average output current IDC, is given by IDC is equal to twice Im by pi, where Im is nothing but the maximum or the peak value of the secondary current, which is now given by Vm divided by square root of RL plus Rx plus twice Rf, the whole term square, plus 4 times omega square L square. RL is nothing but the load. Rx is nothing but the internal resistance of the transformer secondary windings, and RF is nothing but the internal resistance of the PN junction diode. The factor 2 comes here because if you take a full wave bridge type rectifier circuit, you have two diodes turning on and two diodes turning off. Since connection of both the diodes is in series, during every half cycle of their operation, we have RF plus RF given as twice RF. And Vm is simply the maximum or the peak value of the secondary voltage. Omega is simply equal to 2 pi f, where f is nothing but the frequency of the AC input voltage supply, which is typically taken to be 50 hertz. The load voltage or the average DC output voltage VDC is given by twice Vm by pi minus IDC brackets open Rx plus twice RF plus RS, where RS is nothing but the series internal or the DC resistance of the coil or the inductor itself, which will again be very, very small, typically of the order of few ohms. Ripple factor gamma for an inductor filter is given by gamma is equal to RL divided by 3 root 2 into omega into L. If you look at this equation, with the supply frequency being constant, the inductance being constant, and 3 root 2 of course being a typical constant term, gamma is directly proportional to RL. This tells us that for gamma to be as low as possible, the value of the load should also be very, very less, meaning that inductors can only work for loads that are extremely light or whose values are very, very small. Because finally, the goal is to keep the ripple factor as low as possible. Ideally, its value should be equal to 0. The expression for the ripple component or the ripple current IR in terms of the peak as well as the RMS values is currently given by 4 times Vm divided by 3 pi square root RL plus Rx plus 2 RF the whole term square plus 4 omega square L square, and the RMS value can be easily obtained from the peak value by dividing this entire expression by the term root 2. Reason is that because the current variations are perfectly sinusoidal. And since they are completely sinusoidal, the RMS value can be obtained from the peak value by simply dividing by the value root 2. So here it is 4 Vm upon 3 pi root 2, the whole term multiplied by 1 upon square root of RL plus Rx plus 2 RF, the whole term square, plus 4 into omega square into the value L square. And the equations for the ripple component or the ripple current IR, it should be here VR, is given by VR peak is equal to 4 Vm by 3 pi and VR RMS is equal to 4 times Vm upon 3 pi root 2. The typical features or the typical characteristics of an inductor filter are as follows. First point is it minimizes ripples in the output load current. IL is equal to IDC due to the series connection, and it will minimize them to the smallest possible extent. Ripple factor is directly proportional to the load resistor RL as evident from the equation of the ripple factor gamma. This means that the inductors work very well for a light load, which will ultimately result in a very low value for the ripple factor gamma. And it also requires a minimum hardware exactly similar to capacitor filter because it will only use a single inductor L. Hence, it is very easy to design and easy to install. But however, this comes with its own share of drawbacks. Inductors tend to be large, bulky, as well as expensive due to a large number of turns. They have an internal DC resistance due to which they cause power dissipation, which ultimately results in heating problems. So inductor filters are generally not preferred. Capacitor filters are still preferred as compared to inductor filters. To analyze a typical inductor filter, we always follow the steps as given. You assume that the primary voltage available is by default 230 volts AC 50 Hertz unless it is otherwise mentioned. The secondary voltage V2 RMS can be obtained from the step down transformer ratio N1 is to N2 because we have the standard transformer equation as V1 by V2 is equal to N1 by N2. We calculate the secondary peak or the maximum voltage value as V2 peak or Vm is equal to root 2 into V2 RMS. The DC or the average component of the output current is given by IDC is equal to twice Im by pi, where Im is equal to Vm divided by square root of RL plus Rx plus 2Rf the whole term square plus 4 times omega square L square. Similarly, the average or the DC value of the output voltage can be given by VDC is equal to twice Vm upon pi minus IDC brackets open Rx plus twice Rf plus Rs. Ripple factor is again independent of the above steps because if you have the component values with you, gamma can be obtained directly by the equation RL divided by 3 root 2 into omega into the value L. And if we are asked to also calculate the ripple component values such as the peak ripple value or the RMS ripple value, the peak current ripple or the RMS current ripple, the equations are currently given as shown. And finally, we end with by taking a typical numerical example which now has been solved over here. The problem states that for a bridge type full wave rectifier which has an inductor filter, calculate the average or DC value of the output or the load voltage given by VL or the value VDC, the average or DC value of the output or the load current given by IL or the value IDC, ripple factor given by gamma, and the peak to peak value of the ripple current and the ripple voltage given by IR peak to peak and VR peak to peak. We again have a typical setup, 230 volts AC 50 hertz, and the transformer turns ratio are 10:1. Now, what is given is that Rx is equal to 0, meaning that the internal resistance of the transformer secondary winding is assumed to be 0. The diodes have an internal resistance given by 50 ohms each, and the internal resistance of the inductor or the coil is given as 2 ohms. So we have Rx is equal to 0, Rf is equal to 50 ohms, and Rs will be equal to 2 ohms. So when we solve this from a typical examination point of view, the first thing that we always mention is data given. So for data given, we specify that V1 RMS is equal to 230 volts AC 50 hertz, N1 is to N2 is equal to 10:1. The inductance is given as 5 Henry as shown, and the load RL is given as 100 ohms, which is again as shown over here. And we also have Rx is equal to 0, Rf is equal to 50 ohms, Rs is equal to 2 ohms. Firstly, we compute the secondary voltage RMS value from the transformer equation given by V2 RMS is equal to V1 RMS multiplied by N2 by N1, which gives V2 RMS is equal to 230 volts into 1 by 10, that is 23 volts AC. So the peak value also given as the maximum or the secondary voltage becomes root 2 into V2 RMS given by root 2 into 23 volts AC. Here I always use the word AC after volt because for me it becomes clear that this is nothing but a AC or a typical RMS value. Hence the peak value or the maximum secondary voltage is now given by 32.53 volts after we calculate this. The maximum or the peak current at the secondary is again obtained by the equation Im is equal to Vm divided by square root of the first term is RL plus Rx plus 2 Rf the whole square plus 4 omega square L square. So if we put in the values of each and every term, we get Im is equal to 32.53 volts divided by square root. RL was given as 100, Rx was 0, and Rf was 50. 50 into 2 gives you the value 100. So we have 100 plus 0 plus 100, the whole term square, plus 4 into omega square is nothing but 2 pi into f, the whole term square, into L square, that is 5, the whole term square. So the secondary maximum or the peak current Im is given as 10.33 milliamperes. The DC or the average current is given by twice Im by pi. That is 2 into 10.33 into 10 to minus 3 upon pi, which is 6.58 milliamperes. So the average of the DC current is 6.58 milliamperes. Now the average DC voltage value is given by the equation twice Vm by pi minus IDC brackets open Rx plus 2Rf plus Rs, which is nothing but 2 into 32.53 divided by pi minus IDC in the earlier case was obtained to be 6.58 milliamperes. So this becomes 6.58 milliamperes brackets open, Rx was 0, twice Rf, that's 2 into 50, and Rs was simply given as 2 ohms, brackets closed. So the average or the DC output voltage is given by VDC is equal to 20.04 volts. Ripple factor gamma is given by RL divided by 3 root 2 omega L. So if we show one single step working, we get gamma is equal to 100 divided by 3 root 2 into brackets open. Omega is simply taken as 2 pi f. So it's 2 into pi into f, that is 2 pi into 50 into 5. So we get the ripple factor gamma as 0.015. Now this is the completely dimensionless term. And if you multiply the above answer by the value 100, you can also express ripple factor in terms of the percentage given by gamma is equal to 1.5%. We have the peak ripple current is given by 4 Vm divided by 3 pi square root RL plus Rx plus twice Rf the whole term square plus 4 times omega square L square. So the peak ripple current is given by 4 into 32.53 divided by 3 pi square root of 100 plus 0 plus 100 the whole term square plus 4 2 pi f the same thing whole term square into 5 square. So we get the answer for IR peak as 4.39 milliamperes. Since we want peak to peak, we have to simply double this value. So we get a peak to peak ripple current as 8.77 milliamperes. And finally, the ripple voltage, the peak value is given by 4 Vm upon 3 pi. So that will be 4 into 32.53 divided by 3 pi. So we get the peak to peak ripple value as twice into VR peak, and we get the value as 27.61 volts. That is again very, very large. So this shows that inductor filters are typically not used alone. They are always used in conjunction with a typical capacitor, as we'll be seeing it in the next lecture session for a LC filter. Still, the overall ripples are still quite larger as compared to a typical capacitor filter. And finally, ending this, the list of textbooks, reference books, as well as the online website still remains the same. That will be all for today. Thank you very much.